So we're live. Here we go. Hello, everybody. So welcome to tonight to Ask Me Anything. I've got one of my clients, Charlie, with me. I thought it would be a good idea to not only have experts on, but also show what's going down in the real life. And, you know, Charlie and I got together quite a while ago, and he's having some great success driving forward in the group. So I just thought it'd be a good idea to get him on. If you do want to ask us any questions at any time, then please just ping them in the comments below and we'll get them answered for you. Streaming on YouTube and on the Facebook group as we speak. So welcome, Charlie. Thanks for coming on. And
no problem. Thanks for having me.
It's all right. It's all right. I think one of the obviously things we're both interested in is serviced accommodation quite heavily. That's definitely where your journey's taking you at the minute. How have you found 2020?
Up and down, to be honest. Pretty strong for the most part. Most of my growth actually has been this year. So, you know, the pandemic has been pretty nice to us, I think. I think we made some really good decisions in the first lockdown, which didn't lock us into some long-term, you know, breaking even clients. We managed to get some, you know, some long-term clients. Throughout the summer, we had obviously lockdown relieved itself, and we managed to get a nice bit of growth throughout the summer, which has led us on to this point now. So it's been healthy, I would suggest, but the pressure's been on for sure.
Yeah, I think. What did you do differently when lockdown happened?
The first one. Well, I think I was part of a group before, one of my mentorships before, which was really good for me. I had a lot of success through it. We kind of preempted the lockdown as a community, and we did a lot of structural work together to make sure that we made sort of correct steps leading into lockdown, and we managed to get predominantly the majority of the group, and myself included, managed to get some really long-term bookings in. You know, we just sort of grafted firsthand to make sure we found some long-term clients, you know, putting different types of marketing out, all that kind of thing. And I think it was just success from the start. So at that point in time, the first lockdown, I only had 2 properties, and I managed to, you know, fully tenant one solid for 4 months. Yeah, with really good cash flow. And then the second one was just a case of keep rolling the contractors that were in the market still. So I learned quite a lot going through the start of lockdown that way. And yeah, it's been all right. And you know, I'm on nine units now, so it's been fairly successful.
Yeah, no, I think we've definitely seen the same. I think we go on about all the time about direct bookings. It's funny that we always did direct bookings beforehand, and we always had the contractor market as well. But it's funny how like everyone relied so heavily on the OTAs and just like didn't even focus on that. And then this happened, and now they've had to focus on that, and it was just a game changer for most people. But
I hope really.
Yeah, I think what you got to hope is that when we go back to normality, which I don't think is far off, people don't just then slide back into the laziness of, oh, I'll just run with Airbnb or Booking.com and just see what's what. And, you know, I do think we're not a million miles away from that. So what, obviously you had units. What have you learned, I guess, from coming on board with myself? I know we've done quite a bit, haven't we? And what's one of the key takeaways that you feel like you've done with what we've done together so far?
So one of the first things we did together, Ryan, wasn't it? We took a bit of a deep dive into where my pinch points were, where my bottlenecks were, and what kind of need to do to sort of progress. Really, you know, I can quite happily keep moving the same pace I'm going at, but if I want to make a good it's kind of like an entrepreneur's intuition, isn't it? They just want more as quick as possible, don't they? So
yeah,
together we identified where the bottlenecks were, what I needed to do to sort of get myself out of operations and do the stuff that I really enjoy, because the admin side isn't that fun. It's just a necessary sometimes.
yeah.
I think they were the main points and takeaways from it so far. We've got a good monthly structure, which we're going through. So yeah, it was just kind of really opening my mind up to the world of KPIs and tracking. There's a lot. Although I knew the function of KPIs and tracking, there was a lot more that shown by yourself and how you kind of run the KPIs and how it tracks in your business and how it progresses in your business and how I can now reflect that into mine and how that's going to better move me forward. So yeah, there's a lot to take away, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think one thing that surprises most people when I do, I guess, collect information and feedback on the program is we don't really talk strategy much. The strategy, I feel you can learn anywhere, really. If you need strategy, obviously we delve into that. You're about to go into the world of BRR, and we've kind of been touching base on that. So there is some strategy stuff to be learned there. But ultimately, it's about implementation, but how you actually then run a business, as opposed to, I would say, most courses and other things where they just teach strategy. They don't really teach any business structure. And I think fundamentally we got together, and that was exactly what I felt you needed. It wasn't you didn't know how to do SA, you didn't know how to find SA deals. You'd already done that. It was, how do we get you from one-man band wearing all the hats to scaling as quick as we possibly can, and ultimately we want to try and add probably 20-30 units next year by just using that skill set that we've learned, measuring the KPIs on a weekly basis, and then pushing forward. And I firmly believe
the other thing that we delve into was just with the natural structure of having to properly set up a service accommodation business, how many different parts of your business you can then leverage as a sort of another income revenue. That's the sort of thing that you've been opening up to as well, which I'm excited to delve into. Yeah,
well, it makes sense, doesn't it? You've got a process there already, and if something can just fit in and you can make extra money from it, then you're daft not to. And that's probably one thing that you don't really get taught on many of these courses is multiple revenue streams, diversifying your income. Most people, I think, find that out naturally by trial and error, or some people probably just miss the boat altogether. But I know SA management is a big thing that I believe a lot of SA companies should be doing. And if not, I think you're leaving money on the table, because ultimately it just fits into your process. And if you're very organized, you should be able to do it. But there's no way you can do that if you haven't got a good team around you, because you don't want it taking the focus off your main properties if you can't run. So if someone running someone else's, can it be done on automation or with very limited input from yourself, then I don't think you should do that. But when you are at that point where you've smoothed out all your bottlenecks, got all your processes in place, got consistent, then you should you should then take that on as a standpoint. So yeah, no, that's been cool. I think we've got a good little group. I'm enjoying my time with the 7-figure clients at the minute. I think everyone seems to be heading in the same direction, which is great. And I think one of the good things about the way that we work is the network that we've got together. So
there's a bit of diversity. Everyone's kind of started in different places, different positions within their business. It's good to see where the other bottlenecks are in other people's businesses, and if my bottleneck's not the same as someone else's bottleneck, so we can offer each other advices. Why is their bottleneck not a bot, or why is my bottleneck not their bottleneck, and so forth. So kind of like to and fro in that kind of situation, which is very good. It's also just nice to get introduced to other like-minded individuals as well, and have some good conversation around it. So yeah, we're all passionate, we're all leaning towards the same place. So yeah, no, it's been enjoyable so far. Very good.
Yeah, I think it's funny. Like, I don't think there's any two property businesses the same. Even if you run an SA business. Like no two businesses are the same, whether you use different channel managers or, different, the whole setup, it can be very similar, but different, and that's what makes it great, I think. And that's what makes, whereas I think if you had, I don't know, football clubs, for example, you'd think in your head that most of them will probably run very similar, that the way they're all set up and the way that the staff that they have and the systems and things like that. I might be totally wrong there, but
I'm not really a football fan either.
But it's whether you're doing BRR, even BRR businesses, development businesses, building companies, every single business runs differently, but they all operate in the same industry. So
it's
cool.
also interesting to discover sort of where people's origins were and how they actually got into, started where they were. For me, for example, I knew that I needed someone to learn from to get into service accommodation, and I found a good friend, Sean Paul Stevenson, great mentor, set up a great community for us all. But he sort of showed me how to leverage investors to actually get myself onto his mentorship course. I used other people's money to pay for my mentorship, which then also paid for my first SA. So, it all worked out in the end. But
yeah. No, everyone's got a different story. I didn't even know what Airbnb was. Totally fell into it by accident, and then here we are. Like no plan at all to be what I'm doing now. But that's just the way it takes you. And I think at the end of the day, you follow the money. If you see, I think good business people, if they see an opportunity to make profit and they feel they can really scale that, then they go hell for leather with it, and they continue to form processes around it. So you can scale one of the, I know every week pretty much you ask me for a book recommendation, and I'm kind of running out of them because you go through them so quickly. But I think we both agree that Clockwork is one of the best books any business owner can read, especially if you are feeling bogged down and overwhelmed and you're not really sure how you can scale. Or I was having a bit of an argument last night on Facebook with not an argument, but someone commenting about one of my posts about the amount of properties we've acquired this year, almost saying it's physically impossible. How do I have the time? And it's like, well, because I don't do it. I just orchestrate it, and that's the power of a good business. Like, how do you think Mike Ashley sells so many pairs of Nike trainers a day? He's not selling the trainers, he's got an army of people that are like in the stores selling the trainers for him. And that's good businesses is, you work on, we've discussed again the maximization model where you want to move up to the top where you are pretty much out the operations altogether and just working on the business all the time, planning the projects for the business each week, and then you get your team to go and execute.
I mean that's the ultimate dream, isn't it? To be able to have the decision to either choose to do something with your business or not to do anything at all if you so choose, but you still make money in the process and you're still developing a successful business in the process. So that is the ultimate dream, isn't it? Really, I mean, if you can go away for 4 weeks and there's not a hiccup, then you've done a good job, right?
100%. All right, let's dive. There's quite a few questions popping up here, so let's have a go on this one. Michael, hi guys. As a new investor, I'm struggling to work out the post refurb value of properties and looking at how do you research the GDV of projects you are looking to take on. For example, do you use websites such as Mouseprice or do you use another way? Do you want me to take this one?
Go for it.
So I think there's a couple of ways. In the beginning, on your first few, then you will have to use websites. So you look on, I use Rightmove, you look on comparables. You can use Zoopla, you can use mouse prices. There's plenty of websites that give you basically just looking for comparables of recently sold properties, and you want to be checking out that they're kind of the same size, what the condition was. And from that, ultimately, you kind of have to have a guess. It's an educated guess, based on research, but you do have to have a bit of an educated guess at it. When you start, the other way to do it as well is you could potentially ring a few agents up and just, I'm about to buy this house and I'm going to flip it. What do you think the uplift value would be? Once I've put it into good order, and they would give you a rough idea. But you can use a lot of websites, to move a lot quicker. And then from that, you then get the experience that like now I know certain areas, certain house sizes, pretty much what the uplift value will be just through repeating the process over and over again and actually seeing the valuations come in from the valuers for that area on that similar sort of house. If I've bought a house on a certain street and there's a similar house a street behind, well, I know roughly what that price is going to come back at. I would still always do my comparables because street by street it can differ. But as you get more and more experience, you then add that extra bit into the toolkit by being able to rely on previous valuations you've actually experienced, as well as just guesswork from the polls. But no one can guess what a valuer is going to do, and that's ultimately the biggest gamble that most people make. But it's a tough one. Hopefully that helps, Michael. I'm struggling to estimate the refurb cost of a property. Charlie, how do you do it for your essays?
So for me, it's kind of like in the beginning, I made a list of everything that I felt I needed. I kind of just walked around my own house, to be honest with you, and thought, right, I need that and that, walking around the kitchen, right, I need kettle, toaster, just made a full list of it. And then, just doing it the long way, I suppose, because now it's kind of automated for me, and got companies out there that furnish your properties for you, can do it inside a few days if you wanted it to. So, but in the beginning, it was a case of, right, this is the money I've got to play with. Can I fit a whole, furbishment in a brand new SA? Say for a 2-bed, I know, for example, is going to cost somewhere, a fairly decent one around maybe £3,500. £3,000 to £3,500. I think you're probably on the ball there for pretty nice setup for a 2-bed. That's just out through furnishing nine properties. That again, a bit along what you were saying, was just repeating the process over and over again. But now we're in a position where, from your advice, it's a case of, right, I don't really have time to spend 3-4 weeks setting up an SA, doing it all myself. Get third parties to come in and do the job that they're advertising. So I think I set up 3 properties inside 2 weeks with other people's help. And all I had to do was a little bit of admin work, and they were cash flowing straight away. So that's the power of it all. But in terms of estimating at the cost, it's kind of guess just through experience. But in the beginning, it was a case of I just going through Amazon, going through all the cheap furnishing sites, seeing what I can get for my money, really.
Yeah. I think at the beginning, I'll take this a level deeper in terms of BRR in a second, but at the beginning, you probably costed up a lot cheaper because you will go out to marketplace and find things. Because your first few, most people are working on quite a tight budget, and they want to just really keep the costs down. They don't mind driving somewhere and picking the coffee table up or whatever. And I don't think it's the right thing to do, but we've all done it at the beginning, and no matter what anyone says, I think everyone will still continue to do it. So, but so you can keep. But as you get more experience and you're taking on more, and you've then got the operations to deal with, plus the accounts, plus everything else, you realize you haven't got time to go and drive out and get a coffee table, or you actually realize how much that costs you in delay in getting set up and getting bookings, driven into the property. So, you've got to find that balance, but ultimately you want to move as quick as you possibly can. In terms of costing up refurbs for kind of BRR, obviously you can get 2 or 3 builders quotes, and you can tell them exactly what you want. Again, with experience of just paying bills all the time on these various different projects, you start to realize what an average bathroom costs, what an average, kitchen costs, how much it costs to plaster, what the day rate is for X, Y, Z. So that just comes with experience of paying the bills all the time. And, but, you can easily also jump onto Google and just type in, what's the average loft conversion cost for a 2-bed, or, whatever it might be. And you will get at least a base price to be able to give you the idea of what your figures are going to be, to then, if this question's aimed at a BRR sort of strategy, then you would then use those costs to give you a good idea of where you're going to get to. You'll always find builders that'll do work for what you need it for. You've just got to make sure that you verify them and that their quality of the work is half decent. Michael, another question. What is the difference in SA legislation compared to HMOs? So one's licensed and one isn't, is the start. And there's nothing for SAs as yet. However, the fire regulations for SAs are starting to get clamped down on, and I think if COVID hadn't been in place this year, we might have seen some changes with SA legislations, and I think it might have been following the HMO pattern, but COVID kind of sideswiped everyone. I think the government had bigger things to deal with, so their attention's been elsewhere. But I think if you're setting SAs up right now, you should be, I always have from day one, ran PAT tests and just made sure that all the, the boilers are working, and EICRs and everything like that were intact, whether I'm renting it, whether I'm own it. If I own it, I definitely do. If I'm renting it, I want to see the certificates, off the landlords before we go forward, and the same for the managed side of stuff as well. So I think you've just got to use your common sense and always think of the safety of people, because it hasn't happened to me, and touch wood, it never does, but I'd hate to think that someone did die in one of my properties because we took a shortcut somewhere to save a few quid. So just always think that. But I do think SAs are going to get set up now. So what I'm actually doing now is, if I buy a house now and I'm intending to use it for an SA, I will more than likely be putting on fire doors and, be putting in the various fire alarms and things like that, because I think it's only a matter of time before it happens. So, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I might as well do it now whilst we've got the base canvas, especially for the larger properties, rather than sort of wait. And
as well, it's important to do that kind of stuff as well, with like the PAT test and the gas safe certificates and that kind of thing, because when you're first starting out and you're depending on the OTAs and some more corporate booking sites, some of the mainstream places like Silver Door and Situ and all those kind of other places to bring in some contractors for you, when you're first starting out, these guys are all going to want to see these certificates anyway. So it's important that you just get it done, and then at least A, you're safe, and B, people that are in there, you're not going to be liable. You're obviously going to have your insurance, public liability, and all that kind of stuff. But then as well, it's going to help you with the bookings as well. Yeah.
So just, I think there isn't. I think that the nuts and bolts are that there is a big difference, but really there's not. The only thing is that one's got to be rubber stamped and the other one doesn't. So it's then down to you what you decide to do. So. Hope that helps, Michael. This question is rather large. I'm not sure if it'll. Oh, it does. Takes us both out on the screen. So great to see you. My question: I'm doing rent HMO. My mountain is a problem to find houses. We rent houses. We have a person to distribute leaflets in different streets. Okay, so my answer to this would be that you are doing very outdated, unmodern marketing for a property business. There is no need to be distributing leaflets or send. I'm not saying this doesn't work. I just think you can get a lot more for your time by utilizing this powerful tool that we're on right now, which is Facebook. And I think everything you need is on there. You just need to figure out how to leverage that tool. And then you want to be building a brand. You know, we talk about this all the time. It's not just about, you know, your leaflets is just a pitch in someone's door. It's just a cold pitch. They don't know who you are. They don't know what you do. And that's why the response rate on it is so small. You can build great sales funnels. You can, you know, set Google ads away, Facebook ads. You can run generic stuff. You can, you know, prospect generically. You can be dropping into various groups and speaking to people. There's so much that you can do now and that you should be doing without just pitching all the time. And the more you build your brand and try and just add value, the more that then just comes back to you. And I think, you know, Charlie, we had a session on this, and then you, I think, am I right in thinking you executed it and you've just picked up a foreign investor from exactly that?
Yeah, so, you know, just from doing these few bits of building, you know, rather than using social media as a bit of a platform to advertise you and your personal life, it's more of a tool for your business, really. And I had a Dutch company from the Netherlands approached me, basically saying that their market over there is too expensive and it's not as large as it is over here. And they just sort of said, look, we're looking for someone to source and manage units on our behalf. So that's kind of what I'm in the middle of doing right now. You know, they want someone between 2 and 6 units, depending on how time goes. So, you know, we'll work on that right now. So yeah, there's a lot of power in that for sure.
Yeah. I think the more value you add out, the more that comes back your way. Whereas, you know, I've got various Facebook groups and I'm forever deleting posts, or my marketing team are forever deleting posts as well. Just people pitching shit, you know, like, if you want this done, or we've got these deals, or, you know, anybody got any money? It's like, that just doesn't fly. You know, if you want to get places, add value to people's lives. And then if they're interested, they'll come back to you. You know, just keep adding value out there. And when people are good and ready, they'll come back to you. And a lot of people, for me, just totally do not, like, they miss the boat completely with marketing, you know, especially in the property game. I think that's one of the powers I think I've had is developing my business was coming from a marketing angle, as opposed to doing property strategy and then trying to figure out some marketing later on. So, you know, and that background that I had leading into this definitely served me well. And this is what I get you guys to do, and this is what I'm constantly trying to get people to understand is, you know, it needs to be a part of your business, and quite a large part of your business in terms of time and effort put in. And but if you do it in the right way, you'll get the right result. Whereas for me, chucking letters out into houses and handwriting them out and putting them in yellow envelopes, like the amount of time spent to do that versus the ROI that you're going to get back from it is, you know, that time for me could be spent in a much better area. So
I think another little tip on that could be, just jumping in there quickly.
Yeah, cool.
I've had a small bit of success. I don't really spend too much time doing it because it just burns a bit more time than I want. Is that I've actually used the land registry. Like, people are very good at figuring out like a full addresses of properties and things. So
yeah,
you can pay, I don't know, it's like £3 to access the land registry of an owner of a piece of land or a building or something. You know, then once you've got that little bit of info, you can then use social media to find them. So, and then you can advertise them directly rather than you know, something that, you know, they're going to read, rather than just a post that they're going to open up their letter and go, oh, it's another one of these, and put it in the bin. You know, so I've had a small bit of success from it. I don't use it too often, but you can do it that way.
Yeah. There's loads of I was just say it's so powerful. Like, is it everyone's connected to the third person or something now on Facebook? It's like it's a mental stat.
Yeah, LinkedIn's brilliant for that stuff as well. So
yeah. Hey, Ryan and Chris, your new name, Charlie. I'm a new property investor. I want to do the BRR strategy to start off, but struggling to value the cost of refurbs. Okay, we just kind of touched on that a bit before. I live in a town. Would HMOs work in my area, and how can I find this out? You need to obviously, first and foremost, don't dive into anything until you fully understand what you're doing. It's not just a simple case of would HMOs work. I think you need to really fully understand what do you need to make a HMO legally allowed to work as well. I see this time and time again when people are like, I'm going to get into HMOs. They go and, look at a house. They think they, cost it up, but they forget that they need a hardwired fire alarm system, or that they need fire doors and closers on every single door. And, not every single door, but most of the doors in the houses. They need, X, Y, and Z. And, sometimes you're going to need more bathrooms in there than you think. And that was one of the mistakes I made. I had a 5-bed at one point and I had 1 bathroom, and then I wondered why I couldn't get all the rooms full. So, I realized quite quickly that it's because of the lack of bathroom space. 5 professionals trying to get ready on a morning, all at pretty much the same time, that's just not going to fly. So, we had to make changes there. And, so don't just go into it all gung-ho because someone says HMO is great for profit. You've got to fully understand the strategy before you go into it, because you can end up filling the house and then getting a HMO officer come round, and all of a sudden you don't get your license granted and you've got a problem, and you need to start spending a lot more money to get it up to scratch. So in terms of how it works, bit of a longer conversation to figure it out, but in brief, a bit like SA, you've got to kind of analyze the information that you've got and that you can get access to quite quickly and easily. So various websites that are out there, and you just got to be looking at your demand and then looking at your supply as well, and seeing what's out there and seeing if they marry up. So quite an easy thing to do, but ultimately you've got to make that decision yourself, and you've got to go with it. So a lot of HMO questions on it. How do I set up rent-to-rent HMO? Once I rent a property, do I then apply to the local council for a HMO license? Yeah, technically you don't need your license until you've got that final person in the room. So and each council is different. So if you've got, say it's a 5-person license, so when you get to 5 people, you have to get a license. Technically, you don't have to apply for the license until you get that 5th person. But some people do it before, some people, wait, and it just depends where you are. But again, back to the previous question, you want to make sure you've ticked all those boxes, because you want the license officer to just come out and just be like, "Yep, that's fine. Let's just kick on, and we'll grant that license. You don't need to add anything in here. It's all set up." So.
Definitely find all that info with the council. It's definitely different from borough to borough. When I was looking sort of in different areas, one council said that for it to be licensed for like a 5 or 6 bed, one wanted an alarm, like a smoke alarm on in every single bedroom. And then in a different council area, they just wanted one on like the landing of each floor, so it's different. So just make sure.
Yeah, some have, we've got, even within our city, we have different areas of the city, which are Article 4, and then they have different licenses in themselves. So it's a minefield. And I think whilst rent to rent is a superb strategy, and it's a great way to get in and start making some quick cash flow, rent-to-rent HMO can be a very dicey situation if you get it wrong. So
I think like a lot of people will find that they will want to try and utilize all the free information they can, and try and go at it themselves. I think that, for some people, you might get there. I can't highly recommend having a mentor. I've had 3.
Agreed. I've had at least 5 or 6.
Yeah. I don't feel like I ever going to want to stop having a mentor, because it just it takes all of those lessons which that mentor has gone through, and they compact it and they guide you rather than you figuring it out yourself and wasting a lot of time. So yeah, if you feel like you want to try go at it free yourself, fair enough, go for it. If you feel like you've got it in you, but I can't highly recommend getting yourself a mentor for sure.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. I think for me, a mentor doesn't necessarily. For me, a mentor, especially at my stage now, they don't teach me anything I don't really know as such. What I feel they do is just like unlock the clarity of kind of like what your next step is. And then that means that you then get to that point a lot quicker.
Yeah.
So, you know, you will more than likely find it out yourself at some point. If you continue to research, you stick with it and you don't quit. But it's like, how quick do you want to get there? So if you can get on a call and have that unlocked within a second, and then you take action rather than maybe spending 2-3 months. And I've done this with, you know, none of my mentors have been property related. They're all pretty much marketing and sales sort of arenas, I guess. A lot of them are marketing. So for me, it might be, I could spend months trying to figure out Google ads or Facebook ads and, you know, the right copy and the right, you know, all this sort of stuff. Whereas within like one phone call of like half an hour, I could then like just understand it and know exactly how to execute. And then I start pulling leads in straight away rather than burning cash, trying to generate them myself and, you know, all these other bits and bobs. And that for me is what a mentor does, is they just accelerate the result. And yeah, of course, along the way, you're going to pick up tips and learn some new things. But it's nothing that I don't think you would have learned further down the line yourself. I just think that line comes, you know, that success comes a hell of a lot quicker. And then you look at, right, what's the opportunity cost of not doing that? So some people might say, well, I'll just figure it out myself then. Okay, that's fair enough. But if like say for yourself, you know, we're looking to get you set up with a few BRRs early next year, because now we've kind of started discussing that and we started to implement some ideas on how we can, you know, generate funds, etc. Now, you probably could have figured that out by yourself. You probably could have figured out the clockwork model a bit by yourself, but when? You know, and if that was like, say, another 12 months down the line, how many SA units might not you have picked up in that time frame because you were still bogged down running your other ones? So then how many you know, lumps of income are you not getting in? And for me, that's why they're so powerful in what they do, and they just unlock the next best step all the time.
And the cash you think you're saving by figuring it out yourself actually just holds you back. So, you know, the cash flow will start coming a lot quicker when you spend the money as well. So it's
the same as setting your own furniture up in your SAs, isn't it?
Yeah.
It could take you like 4 weeks to set a property up by drilling the bolts in yourself, or you could pay a handyman to do it in 2 days, and then it's cash flowing straight afterwards, because then you can set it live and you start getting bookings. Yeah, it's exactly the same principle, you know.
In the start, I remember camping out in one of my SAs for like 2 days at a time, just so much furniture and stuff to set up, because you want to get it done as quick as possible, but you end up spending so much time doing it. And then once you've done the furniture, you got to set up on all the OTAs and all the admin, all the channel. It's just so much to do. So, you know, get a furniture company in, get them to do it in 2 days. And in that same time, you've created adverts and it's ready to go.
Yeah. It's just the power of leverage. Whatever you're doing, it's leverage, you know, and you should always just be looking to buy other people's time or invest in other people's time. And then it's not an expense.
Yeah.
Right, here we go. Have you got a mortgage broker who specializes in HMOs, SAs, but we don't have a deposit? Would you recommend a bridge flip? Okay, so first and foremost, most mortgage brokers will have access to HMO and SA products. It's kind of just a byproduct of what they do. And but you will not get any sort of lending if you haven't got a deposit these days. I don't know anybody that the only way you could get into a BRR strategy or whatever purchasing strategy you want right now without a deposit is working with an investor, and they pay 100% of the price of the house. But obviously, I'm assuming you're probably quite new to this, so you've probably got no track record, and therefore you will maybe struggle to get that over the line, I would imagine, at the beginning. But a lot of people, you know, I see this quite often. Would you recommend a bridge to flip? With a bridge, you actually have to put more deposit in than a mortgage. You know, so I think a lot of people get confused and think a bridge is 100% financing. It's not. Most bridges at the minute are about 70% LTV. So you will still have to put money into a bridge. So if you haven't got a deposit, you're probably going to struggle on either front, in all fairness, unfortunately. Next question. So I'm kind of looking to flips and rent as my go-to strategy of 2021. Do not own anything yet. I'll have approximately 20K in life savings by January. How would you utilize this cash to begin my journey? Do you want to answer this, Charlie? I've got my opinion. Let's hear yours.
I think that you could end up wasting a lot of your 20k if you don't know what you're doing. First and foremost, for me, I'm a bit more of a I'm a bit of a person which is very risk averse. So I want to know everything before I pull any triggers. So it's kind of like I don't know what your level of understanding with flips and that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like I would always utilize that money for someone to teach me and to understand it myself, because I feel like if you manage to get yourself an SA, for example, tomorrow, what would you do with it? If you what would be the next step? You just wouldn't know, would you? So I think a bit of education is never a bit of bad advice. I don't know, where do you want to come in with that, Ryan?
I would use 20 grand to fund as many rent-to-rent deals as I possibly could, and then I would turn 20 grand into 40 grand through the cash flow from rent to rent. And at that point, I would have enough experience, like you're talking about there, in setting properties up, running them on certain strategies, and then I would look at some BRR stuff or potentially some flip stuff. But at the beginning, you go into BRR or you go into flips with 20k, you get it wrong, you ain't going to see that 20k again for a while. So you can utilize that money better. We're talking maybe anywhere from, I think, 400 quid's the cheapest SA I've ever set up to, I think I've spent 8 grand refurbing someone else's property. So anywhere between that. But I would say on average, it'll be a couple of grand each setup. So, you could potentially set up 10 units, which could potentially cash flow anywhere from 300 quid a month to 1,500 quid a month, depending on the size, the location, the success of the property, etc. So quite quickly, you could turn that 20k into 40k, and obviously get you 20k back in the bank account again. So you've got your capital back, you've then got it working, and and then you can reinvest that again. So
even if you only get 5 units with 20k,
sure, yeah,
5 units is going to cash you far more than over a period of, say, like, I don't know, 9 to 12 months. It'll get you more than 20k back out. So then you're going into maybe 2022 with even more than 20k. So
yeah, it's that's exactly what I would do. And if you were joining me as a client, then that's 100% what I'd be advising we do. I think that's about it. Decent session. Enjoyed it. So thanks everyone for your questions, and thanks Charlie for popping on and doing that for us. I'm sure people have had some great value from that, and I think it's great to see. A lot of the time I talk a lot of shit. And I like to tell everyone what I do and how I do it, but I think it's great to also see how other people are doing it as well, and people that I work with as well, and I'm passionate about everyone else's business. So I will catch you tomorrow night for our weekly catch up, and I'll see everyone else through the week. Anything else you want to add, Charlie? Or
no, not really, other than if there's anybody out there that want to ask any questions about perhaps me and my journey, what I'm up to, anything at all, feel free. Just ping us a message, and we're happy to help you out.
Cool. Awesome. All right, buddy. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. I'll speak to you soon.
Thank you. Take care.
Cheers, pal.